Welcome to the podcast, and an absolute pleasure to be sat with Robert Hargrove today. Thank you so much for being here, Robert.
It's great.
I honestly am so excited to share this session with you because if you're a coach, you are closer to becoming a masterful and prosperous coach than you realize, especially if you follow what we share in this podcast. And I just want to give you a little bit of a backstory. Recently, as a professional coach myself, I've been partnering with companies, and I was feeling like there must be a blueprint for this. There must be someone out there who knows how to do this at the highest level. And it's kind of this kind of serendipitous moment where I looked into my cupboard and the Masterful Coaching book, which Robert wrote 30 years ago, was sitting there, which I'd read twice before. And I was like, actually, it was literally the same moment I had the thought. I went to my cupboard, opened up the book, and I picked up the book and I started reading it. And I just felt this calling to reach out to Robert and thank him for the great work that he had put into the book. So I literally, as I was reading it, I was like, this is the blueprint. This is the book that I needed to read to help me with my clients on that day. And since then, Robert and I have had a couple of discussions, and it was just an incredible moment that we both have an alignment that we believe that masterful coaching can help so many coaches become a prosperous and masterful coach. And what we want to share on the podcast is how Robert's done that over his, oh my gosh, maybe 30 plus years of coaching, Robert. So, yeah. If you want to share, because like honestly, that's
the fascinating thing is Ben, who I've been delighted to meet and to interact with. He pointed out that in the book that I wrote, Masterful Coaching, the New York Times called it a landmark book. The Wall Street Journal said it's the book that will change the world of traditional leadership development, business consulting, and coaching forever. But Ben pulled out something very interesting from the book that he said, coaching is an idea as time has come. And that was, I wrote the book in 1995. And I'm still as passionate as I was when the day I wrote it, as you can see, otherwise I wouldn't be here. But it said, coaching is an idea whose time has come. What's interesting is that at the time, there was no such thing as a coach, a professional coach, unless they happened to be a coach of a football, baseball, or basketball team or hockey team. There was no such thing. Furthermore, there was no such thing as the word coaching was not in the vocabulary unless it referred to the great game of sports. It was not in the vocabulary at all with regard to the great game of business. And I must say, I take a certain amount of pride in the fact that my book was the first book on coaching, and I still believe is the best. I
agree.
I'm not English. I'm not afraid to pat myself on the back. That partially as a result, I won't take all the credit of writing that book. Today, there's hundreds of thousands of coaches all over the world. I spoke to someone in Brazil the other day. I said, is coaching popular in Brazil? He said, my God, it's exploding. And it's exploding in London. It's exploding in Germany. It's exploding in Japan. It's exploding in France. It's exploding in India. So, you know, this gives me a certain amount of satisfaction. Now, Ben, can I go on and say something else?
I've got something to share. Actually, it was kind of a funny moment in our conversations that you were sharing how it was you wrote the book and then all of a sudden you just became oversubscribed, and you know for 30 years. Yeah. He said this whilst
we have a guy in America called Rip Van Winkle that fell asleep for 30 years and then woke up and saw how the world had changed. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it was a funny moment because like you said that Robert had a cupboard behind him and he got in the cupboard and he said, listen, like I've been in the closet. I get in the closet with a business. I'm coaching them, and then I appear every 6 months and I'm back in the closet, and I just realized that you've been in the trenches doing this work, literally living masterful coaching for the last 30 years. And I think that this is something that I've noticed in the industry, that there's so few business coaches that have lived like you. They've learned the theory, they've learned maybe the coaching, the person, like personal coaching, but actually organizational leadership coaching like you have. There's very, very few people out there that can teach that. And that was it was quite it was a funny moment. And actually, even just our first conversation, Robert and I were talking about, I shared my impossible goal. So my impossible goal, I wrote on my calendar in January, was to create a coaching institute. And in a literally 2 sentences, Robert transformed that goal into an impossible goal. He said, do you want to create a coaching institute or a coaching institution? And the scale at which my mind moved for the next week was astronomical. I just created an impossible future. So just that kind of interaction with that kind of coaching is transformational. And it was a real pleasure just to have that conversation. And that's where we've both been having a conversation about over the last couple of weeks as well. So yeah, it's amazing to actually see how much impact you can have in such a short space of time, Robert.
Well, when we say we want to create a coaching institute, what we're really talking about is a background to that. My goal has always been to create a global movement of masterful coaches, of people who could interact with leaders and teams and organizations in a way that would really do something to transform the world. So in order to make that work, we can't just have a global movement. We have to build the corresponding organization. What's behind masterful coaching is really a cause more than it is a business, but it also has a business. And part of, I think, what Ben's talking about is we want to create a scalable enterprise with, let's say 1,000 coaches or 10,000 coaches all over the world using the masterful coaching approach. And as I said, when I wrote that book, I wanted to put something powerful in people's hands. I don't want to say it's like a nuclear weapon, but almost as powerful as a nuclear weapon for peace. And the book has a science-backed breakthrough methodology for helping people, leaders at all levels, achieve an impossible future. And it also has a methodology for transforming people's lives. And we want to share that with as many people as possible. But before I get too diverted, I just want to say one thing. Going back to what I said a moment ago, was when I started out, there were no coaches. Now there's hundreds of thousands of coaches all over the world. But there's something that I call the coaching gap. So imagine one word over here, coaching gap. And the gap is that there are a lot of people out there that, let's call them masterful coaches. They're very good at what they do. And they deserve to be prosperous because they're so good at what they do. But they're not prosperous. And then there's other people who are they call themselves coaches. And they're masterful at being prosperous, but they're not necessarily masterful at coaching. So what we wanted to do was Ben and I got together and we said, why don't we offer a masterful coaching masterclass based on the book that narrows the distance between being a masterful coach and a prosperous coach. It's very important to me in anything that I do. One of the reasons I never went into spreading the word and creating an army of coaches is I didn't want to offer a coaching program that just taught people how to coach who loved coaching without also helping them to make a living doing what they love. So sorry to go on, but that's a little bit of a something.
No, I really got that, and I think that's what I was kind of, as I was reading the book, there's 12 coaching conversations in there, which I believe that every coach needs to be privy to. And it was just like hearing those conversations thinking, actually I'm working with that team or that group and I haven't done this. And I've been doing this for 10 years, working with leaders and business. I've always wanted to work with businesses and their teams, but I'd never had the roadmap, never had the blueprint. But I think what
blueprint is a great idea.
Yeah, and I think that what was really helpful for me was like I was reading those conversations. I was like, this is really easy to implement, and by implementing this into my coaching practice, A, I'm going to improve my coaching, I'm going to improve my results, and B, I can actually monetize a lot of what you share, like in terms of the coaching conversations. There's ways to productize very easily some of the audits you can do with the leadership that you work with. There's ways to even get clients and create offers from what the conversations that you articulated 30 years ago. And as I was reading those chapters, Robert, I was like, do you know what? If I could just put out an offer saying, hey, listen, do you need to work out if you've got a group of A players in your team, I can help you do that. And so many people in business need that help and support, but there just aren't the coaches marketing and sharing that they can help them with that. And I think that's what's so powerful about the book's relevance even now. Like, people are not talking about that to help companies. They're not saying I can help you improve your team. They're not talking about how they can have an impossible goal. And that's what really gripped my attention. That, I come from a background of saying you absolutely have to have an impossible goal, and that's the first thing the book starts with as well. So yeah, it was amazing to see how relevant it stayed over 30 years.
And during that 30 years, I had the opportunity to work with CEOs of Global 1000 companies, Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, and a ton of small to medium-sized enterprises. And I think one of the reasons why I was successful was that before I started Masterful Coaching, I conducted leadership weekends that were basically about personal transformation with 30,000 people. That's before I wrote the book.
Wow.
30,000 people. That was before I ever wrote the book. And before I wrote the book, I was already coaching CEOs and top teams of Fortune 500 companies like Apple and Google and Nike and Fidelity Investments. So there was a lot of experience that went into writing that book. However, writing that book was it was very challenging. It took me 2 or 3 years to write it. Actually,
wow.
I had 3 versions that came out of the printer that were scattered all about the office floor. But I want to say that I'm talking about that I was successful. My first contract when I wrote the book in 1995 was for $100,000,
Wow.
which was a lot of money then and now. Many coaches today haven't been, they're passionate, they're dedicated, they're committed, and they love coaching, but they're not able to make a living doing what they love. And I want to help them on both ends of both ends. It is possible to be very successful doing this, to make a difference in people's lives, and to also make a very good income for yourself.
Yeah, there was something that actually, if you listen to this podcast, and you might be thinking, like, is this something that would help me reading this book? And actually, as I was reading it, the content of the book, what we're doing together, Robert and I, is that this will help you if you're a senior leader. Like, if you've got a team and you want to supercharge your leadership ability, a modality of coaching, a way of coaching your team will help you exponentially. It will help you so much. Like, if you're a HR professional and you're looking to coach executives and teams, this will help you. Like, moving to more of a coaching centric approach in your leadership will help you. And this is also for, like, I found a lot of coaches who were certified, maybe it's like ICF certified or industry specific certified. I think that sometimes we get caught up in just the coaching the person blueprint, whereas actually this will help you when you're trying to coach a leader and a team together and the business. So I think that there's a big shift, especially I think since COVID, since 2020, when so many coaches came online, and I think what COVID did really, really well is it expanded people's thinking that they could, my first 10 years of coaching was done in a little room in my gym. I didn't have any online clients for the first 10 years. I didn't even think about outside my town. And then in my second half of my coaching life, I'm now coaching people all over the world. And I think what's been amazing is so many of the people that I've coached have enjoyed the coaching experience so much. They've grown so much. They've wanted to become become coaches themselves, because they see how dramatically transformational it can be for an individual themselves and when they've actually had experience coaching their team. So bringing a coaching-centric approach into your business is a great idea to help your team flourish, especially in the times, especially in the times that we have at the moment, where you have to be as effective as possible with your resources.
Yes, and at the same time, you have to not only help them to realize an impossible goal like growing your business 10x. Ben's an expert on that, but you also have to help them drive rapid transformation, because you can't create an impossible future that would result in growing your business 10x, doing meaningful work, and contributing to society without transformation, personal, team, and organizational. So that's the area that we're going to focus. But I may have cut you off there.
No,
Is
you
there
didn't.
another group you wanted to mention?
No. I think that one of the things that I really was I think there was a real alignment with what we were interested in, Robert, is that impossible goals, impossible futures. There's something that you shared, really early on in our conversations, that you're only interested in helping people create an impossible future. And that's how you've really helped these companies and these individuals transform. Can you speak to that for a minute?
Well, you see, I want to coach people that want to solve some of the world's toughest problems. And so think about some of the greatest CEOs of our time. Steve Jobs changed the world with the personal computer. Elon Musk accelerate the shift to sustainable transport. Sam Altman created the whole world of the new age of AI. I want to coach people who, when you go for an impossible future, there's no way to do that without coming up with innovative ways to solve society's problems, to solve your customers' problems, and to solve your problems. So, but let me really emphasize that. So impossible future means you're going to do something that requires transformation and disruptive innovation altogether. I'm not really just interested in. I want to help coach people to do new work. I don't want to coach people to do commodity work. I don't want to go walk into a pizza place and they say, "Let me show you how you can improve your pizza sales 10% this year, or get better at making pepperoni pizza or sausage pizza or vegetarian pizza." I want to work with someone that's going to create the next great thing around pizza. So let me trace back a little bit. So to go for an impossible future, it requires working with people who are seeking breakthrough ideas that will disrupt their industry, who are seeking to come up with the next great thing. I don't want to coach people that are doing commodity work and just trying to do the same thing better. How about you, Ben? What do you think of that?
No, I think it was a moment that you and I were talking, and you said about an institution, and then I had this feeling inside me. It was like, why not me? I think that's what a really big part of our conversations, when I said, well, why not me? I've been in the coaching industry, working with clients for 10, 15 years. I've coached, literally hundreds of clients. I've been transforming people's lives. I've seen 10x changes in their health, in their business. Why not me? And I think that so many people.
Why not you in terms of coaching larger organizations?
Yeah. It was, well, why not me? And that was where I was like, why not create something that has a worldwide impact? And I think so many people have that same problem, is that they coach people and their goals are so small. And there's two reasons that could be, is that they don't have big goals themselves. Like, as you actually coach people and have impossible, coach people in creating an impossible future, just out of integrity, you need to be able to do this with your own life. And that's something that I've noticed in my own life. As I've coached more people who have bigger and bigger goals, my goals have also got bigger too. And I think that's just a congruence piece that you have to develop as a leader. But the second thing is that a lot of people don't actually know how to coach an impossible goal. It's like there's actually a process to this that actually really helps them.
Or coach people to transform their lives or their team.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that they've never seen the blueprint for that. They just know about small behavior change based approaches, which are great for moving someone from A to B in a linear fashion. But what we're talking about is an exponential shift, like a real night and day shift. They become a different person. The organization becomes a different organization, and that's what we're talking about when we're discussing masterful coaching.
If you look at, there are many people who are marketing and promoting and advertising coaching services. And they may even say things like, I'll teach you how to realize an impossible goal, or I'll teach you I'll coach you to grow your business 10x, or I'll coach you to drive rapid transformation. But all those people are not, I shouldn't say all, in fairness, but the vast majority are missing one thing, and that's what you talked about, a blueprint. What masterful coaching offers you is what's missing from most of what the people in the coaching world have. It offers you a breakthrough methodology, a step-by-step process for doing those things in any with any person or with any team or with any organization. That's really the key point, the blueprint. There's a lot of in fact, there's a lot of coaches out there who I would call masterful in terms of their basic coaching skills, what I call committed speaking, committed listening, helping people make shifts, but they don't have a systematic process. They don't have a breakthrough methodology. They don't have a step-by-step process for actually coaching someone. So as you mentioned in our pre-call, they're winging it. If you want to get people on winging it to flying it, feeling unshakable confidence with it, you might consider join us. I hope I'm not coming across as overly passionate.
I think that's please do. I think it reminds me of when, like, it's the difference between when you go to the gym yourself and you do some random set of exercises that might have an impact on your body versus having a very well designed program. If you're going to do that program, you're going to get a result. And it took me, when I was building the gym, it took me around about 5 to 6 years to really hone my methodology. And after 5 or 6 years, I just knew if someone followed that with 80% adherence, they would get a massive transformation in their body. And I think that's what you've obviously done over the years that you've been coaching and leading organizations, Robert. So that's what I was looking for, because I was, I really wanted that, because I've had a number of conversations with coaches who have maybe had one-to-one engagements. They've maybe coached someone professionally, or they've done some executive coaches, but they want to see, like, what's the next thing for them. And I think
there's something beyond being an executive coach that you take a corporate homogenized competency list and you try to get the right competencies into people and the wrong competencies out of them. But I wanted to go back to a second that most of the people listening to this podcast have looked at other YouTube videos or read other books or TikTok on how to be, if you will, a masterful and prosperous coach. And they all know, everyone listening to this knows something about how to come up with a great web page, for example, or great landing page, or some kind of great brochure. But what I found is a lot of people have what their website, their YouTube videos, their LinkedIn posts, or the LinkedIn banner. It's clickbait. Why do I say it's clickbait? Because while your promises may sound wonderful, can you really deliver on what you're talking about? Do you have a blueprint, as Ben points out? Blueprint and Ben, the two B's go together. Do you have a blueprint for actually being able to deliver on those promises? So are your promises clickbait, or can you make something happen? You're promising something that's not supposed to happen. So do you have a methodology for making something happen that wasn't supposed to happen, like help someone reach an impossible future, help someone transform the quality of their lives?
Yeah, and I think it'd be worth talking just briefly. So what I was thinking while I was reading Masterful Coaching, and I got in touch with Robert, is like, more people need to be having these conversations or privy to these conversations. So when I first reached out to Robert, I was like, well, would you be interested in a series of masterclasses where we read a chapter from the book and then really got deep into the the how to like deliver that coaching conversation. So, for example, there is a whole coaching conversation about creating an impossible future or creating a powerful relationship with your client or the business, and to not just get the information that is in the pages, but because I think like even just actually speaking to Robert about the book in 2 to 3 calls, I had a 10x experience of how to implement what he was actually talking about in the book. And so what we wanted to do is have those coaching conversations and listen to some of the experiences Robert's had delivering this into organizations and businesses and working with CEOs over the last 30 years. And so this is when we think, oh, hang on a second, this is how we could actually bring the book alive by bringing it together and putting it into a series of masterclasses that would help you not just have the information. I think that's, a lot of us coaches, and if you're anything like me, I am an information hound. I love reading and I love listening to books, courses, but it's not just that information, it's that insight and then into implementation. And that's my skill set. I'm very, very good at helping people move information into implementation and actually helping you implement things that are going to help you work with a CEO, an organization, a small to medium sized business that will actually get you results. So I think that's where the synergy between Robert and I. Robert's exceptional about helping you implement things that are going to work. I'm very, very good at helping you take this step-by-step approach to making sure that you actually implement the things that you're learning.
I think it's a little bit different than that. I'm good at coming up with big ideas. I think it's big ideas to change the world. Ben's good at helping to take those ideas and translate them into a power-packed program that's eye-opening, mind-boggling, and very effective.
I love doing that. So I think that
I wanted to say one other thing there to build on what you said, and that is, I wrote the book because I knew people would need a structured coaching process. So as you alluded to, there's 12 coaching conversations, and if you follow those 12 coaching conversations over the course of a year, or over the course of 12 weeks, or over the course of 4 months, they're very powerful. They're really going to work. And I love Ben's idea. Ben's very, very creative. I truly admire and respect him. I love the guy. I want to tell you.
Thank you.
But his idea that we could talk about the content. He might come across and say, "Here's the content of this chapter. How do you build an extraordinary coaching relationship? How do you do transformational 360 feedback? How do you create an impossible?" And those are some of the conversations. But then he wants to interview me. We want to lay out the basic framework of those 12 coaching conversations. But then he wants to interview me on everything that I've learned about delivering those conversations with CEOs, with entrepreneurs, with teams all over the world. Remember, when I wrote the book, I never had actually coached anybody except through my programs. I did. I mean, that's probably not true, but I didn't have a formal coaching program. But I think over the years, I've learned so much. I've learned much more than was actually in the book. And so Ben had this brilliant idea. Let's lay out the 12 conversations and let's go through each one by one. And then let me interview you to find out the many layers of learning that you've accumulated, or the nuances that you've had when actually working with CEOs and entrepreneurs and doing that. I think it's a fabulous approach. Yeah. Did you explain the structure a little bit, or I may not have done justice to the...
No, I think you nailed it there, Robert. Yeah, I think the real kind of crux of what we're helping you achieve is there's a saying that a great coaching friend of mine said, and he said, "You can't be what you can't see," and I think that's something that I've always really sought out in my coaching life is finding people to emulate. So it's not just reading the information; it's like watching how Robert describes how it's implemented, and just even experience
how we actually not theoretically implemented, how I actually implemented this with CEOs, entrepreneurs, teams, people in Washington, in the White House, in the Pentagon, in Silicon Valley, other places. But let me say, I don't want to be too much of a smart aleck. I still look at myself not just as a masterful coach, but as a student of coaching. I wake up every day trying to figure out how can I be a better masterful coach and a more prosperous coach. There's something they talk about in Japan called the story called the Monkey King. And the Monkey King is sometimes at the top of the tree. But the Monkey King is sometimes, and he's very successful. And other times the Monkey King is a miserable failure who's at the bottom of the tree. So I don't want to overly promote my success. I was listening to a YouTube video with Cy Stallone, Rocky. And he said, it wasn't Cy Stallone. It was Arnold Schwarzenegger. He said, I've been the bodybuilding champion. I went to Hollywood and became a movie star. Then I became a governor of California. But what a lot of people know, that inside I often felt like I was failing. And I felt the same way. I've listed a lot of my successes, but a lot of times in the process, folks, I felt like I was failing. I wasn't getting the clients that I wanted. I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. And there were many times when I felt discouraged and wanting to give up, probably like you do. And so if I can help you to keep going, to not give up, and to become more successful, I'd be really delighted.
Yeah, I'm so glad you shared that. Like, because I actually genuinely feel this is my new vista. You know, this is like I've just gone through many phases of transforming myself as a coach, and this is I feel like the beginner in this. Even though I've got a lot of experience coaching people, I feel like we did talk about the master and the apprentice. I feel this is like a real apprenticeship, learning from you and listening to what you're sharing. So, if you've been listening to this, and honestly, if you are a leader of a team, you're a coach, you're somebody who's been coaching for a while, and you're looking to improve your results, and you want to
close that gap between being a masterful and prosperous coach one way or the other.
Yeah, I think that I've stuck a link in the bottom of this podcast. Like, click on the link and register your interest, because over the next couple of weeks we're going to be sending out information about the Masterful Coaching masterclasses that we're going to be delivering. So then you two can join us on this journey. It's an exciting experience, and super grateful to you, Robert, for kind of leading this and being a part of this.
Could you lay out a little bit, just for basic information purposes, what is the structure of the masterclass? How many sessions in it? Any idea of what the costs are at this point? I know people always want to know what the costs are. Yeah.
So we wanted to make it super approachable, super accessible, because I think that it's going to be so valuable for so many people. So in terms of the commitment, it's a weekly live call where I interview Robert. So you can be on that call. It's just a one-way call where Robert and I have a conversation. And there's a masterclass, which is a workshop style two-way experience where I actually help you implement the things that you heard from the coaching conversation earlier in that week. And so what that's going to do is going to help you just take action on the call, because I'm not a big fan of just learning theories. I want you to get into action, go and test them in your business, go and try them out with clients. It's ideal for you to have clients. So if you're going to come on this, it's ideal for you to have clients or prospective clients. But if you haven't, it's not the end of the world, because doing this process will help you get clients. But this is going to help you. And then the final thing is that you're going to get a prosperous practice every single week. It's an opportunity to go and test what you've actually learned with either your clients or your prospective clients. And it's a 12-week program. The investment's $997, and what that's going to do is going to make it super accessible. And then you're going to get so much for that. And we're going to be opening up the doors in just a couple of weeks. So if you're listening to this this was recorded on the 11th of April, so 2 weeks from now.
I wanted to mention something that I've talked about, the coaching these big companies, but I realized that that's not conveniently accessible, or affordable, the marketing affordable to everyone. So we're going to put a lot of focus on coaching the CEOs or entrepreneurs or owner-operators of small to medium-sized businesses. There's tens of thousands of them in every single country all over the world. And most of them are much more open to coaching than the CEOs of Global 1000 or Silicon Valley or or other similar places. There's a huge opportunity here. I took it very seriously. When I say I'm going to teach you how to be a masterful coach and prosperous coach, I've really thought long and hard about doing it. And I think a big part of the way forward is, as Ben was discussing, doing business coaching with CEOs and entrepreneurs of small to medium-sized enterprises. I want to share that with you. And there's one other thing, if I may, Ben, you and I talked about this yesterday. Some people might say, well, I don't really have a client to start with, or I want to try this. I'd never used this approach before. I don't know if I want to risk it with my existing client. One of the ideas that we had is that anyone who signs up for this course, this masterclass, will be asked to spend 10% of their time, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 weekends a month, coaching people in an organization, a CEO or a team of a nonprofit company. It could be women, it could be minorities, it could be elderly people. It's women, minorities, and cause-oriented organizations. I'm very excited about this because I didn't really start this to make a lot of money. I started this to do something to make a lot of difference. And so I hope people are excited about that idea. I'm personally going to do that myself.
No, yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah, I think it's a big part of what we're doing. I remember even when I started coaching, I just always said I'd coach any children for free. I coached schools for free. I went and spoke at schools for free, and it was a real. It gave me a lot of positioning as I started to become a coach in my local area as well. So,
what if I could coach Greenpeace? What if I could coach Doctors Without Borders? Those are just things that come to my mind. There's a lot of very small organizations that are trying to make some kind of difference, trying to do something to change the world, and they don't know how to be effective. And coaching can expand their capacity to produce results. So
that's amazing. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I've put all the information that you might want in the bottom, and I've also put a link to the Masterful Coaching book. Honestly, if you're a coach and you haven't got that book, it's probably the book that people talk about when it comes to being a successful coach. So I'll let you in on a little secret there. Definitely take a look at it, and I'll pop the Amazon link on the bottom there. Thank you so much for listening, and take care.